The Real Problems with Congress in Washington, D.C., and How to Fix Them by Michael S. Brown. It's early 2019. The federal government is in partial shutdown. Again. This video reveals the real problems that plague our nation's capital and offers ways to fix them. I concluded the problems can be simplified by designating three main themes. Theme number 1, what should be done. Theme number 2, how to get things done. And theme number 3, managing money. Theme number 1, what should be done. A simple enough question. In a democracy such as ours, the answer should be what the voters want. But how do we know what the voters want? There are a number of highly leveraged public opinion polls where the responses of a small number of voters are extrapolated to assess what the general population might want. The problem with this approach is that only a small number of voters were asked for their opinion. Were you asked? Secondly, trying to extrapolate a small data set is inherently imprecise. So what's a better way? Ask each voter their opinion on a selected topic. Is this really possible? Yes. Here's how it would work. We need to build a technopolis. A what? A technopolis will be a secure computer system, log-on and password required, designed to capture voters' opinions on a given topic each week. The name comes from polis, which comes from the ancient Greek origins of democracy, with techno, whereby we will make use of current technologies such as computers and phones to ensure our elected representatives always know what the voters want. Each user will be invited to provide standard demographic information one time. This will be useful later on to sort the results by congressional district, state, and or other demographic categories. Once we get the voters registered, they will have the opportunity to express their opinion on one or more questions each week. At week's end, all registered voters in the system will be able to view reports of voting by any of the demographic information. So people can see national totals, totals by state, congressional district, zip code. The results can show how Hispanic females in Florida voted, how people over 60 voted. The data polling service will give people a voice each week by asking their opinion on an issue. The assimilation of comprehensive public opinion by state and congressional district will create a mandate for those holding office to vote accordingly, or to explain why they did not. This feature will weaken the grip by party bosses and special interest groups. The masses of registered voters will feel empowered once they see their elected representatives obligated to vote in line with their opinions on issues. This completes theme number 1, what should be done. Theme number 2, how to get things done. For this second theme, we need a close inspection of how things are currently done. The current paper and voice process for working congressional bills is needlessly complex and inefficient. A close examination of the body and amendments of a typical bill might show 15 incremental items, 5 good items, 5 bad items, and 5 in-the-middle items. A single yes-no vote is expected on the collection. If one votes yes to get the good things, the bad things get approved too. If one votes no to block the bad things, the good things don't get approved. How would you vote on such a bill? The complexity of current bills is a significant contributing factor to gridlock, to confusing voting records, and to closed-door deal-making. At this writing, the partial federal government shutdown is because the operation and maintenance of the government has been combined with a capital expenditure for a new border wall with Mexico. Our leaders are struggling to vote on some arrangement of the two independent topics. The current paper and voice system for processing bills is also slow, cumbersome, and inefficient. Solution to theme number 2, how to get things done. The best solution to how to get things done is congressional electronic line item approval. This would break down the typical 15-item bill into 15 separate entities, each without amendments, each to live or die on its own merits. As a result, the good things would get a quick approval, like approving the operation and maintenance of the federal government. The bad things would not be approved and not even submitted, as experience would show that it's a waste of time. The in-the-middle things would still get debated, but in the meanwhile, the good things would have been approved and the bad things would have been blocked. The electronic component of congressional electronic line item approval introduces a host of benefits. In comparison to paper and voice, electronic processing is much quicker and more efficient. Electronic drill-down capability would allow supporting justification for items such as data, photos, survey results, and so on. Cradle-to-grave tracking capability would capture the entire life of a bill line item, from preliminary justification to the voting record and to implementation details such as spending, before and after photos, and so on. Links to the Technopolis system should be included for line items that voters had an opportunity to voice their opinion on. A secure electronic system would allow Congress to vote on items from remote locations and need not be in Washington, D.C. A voting comments capability should be included to allow those who choose to document their strength of support or objection to an item and/or the reason they voted the way they did. A congressional electronic line item approval would result in clear voting records, better congressional accountability, and less deal-making. The system would improve the openness of the congressional business to the American public. This completes theme number 2, how to get things done. There is one more theme to consider, managing money. Theme number 3, managing money. Our federal deficit is something like $22 trillion. Does that number have any meaning to you? It probably doesn't, and that is by design by Washington. They carefully shield Americans from what this number means to each registered voter who is ultimately responsible for this debt. There are about 200 million registered voters in the United States. If you divide the numbers, you will find each voter is in debt for about $110,000. I'm married, so as a couple, our debt is $220,000. Surprised? If you don't pay this debt, our children and grandchildren will be on the hook. A good first step in managing this debt is to ensure all government spending is expressed in terms of the cost per registered voter. Also, it needs to be clear if any spending proposal is a one-time affair or comes with hidden annual maintenance expenses. So do you want a 250-mile border wall with Mexico? Not knowing what our personal share for it might be, it's easy to support the concept. The president is asking for $5 billion. That's $25 per registered voter. Now do you want a 250-mile wall on the Mexico border? Even though you may doubt the need for the wall, would you be willing to pay an extra $25 just to get Washington out of gridlock? As you can see, knowing the per voter cost of things can help shape the decision process. Border walls, health care, missions to Mars, and so on. Cost information expressed both as a total number and as a per voter responsibility should be included in each congressional line item bill. Of course, there's a host of other money management issues in the federal government. Let's save those for some other day. Test case. Let's do a test case on the current gridlock in Washington, assuming all the elements I've discussed are in place. A single line item bill was introduced in December 2018 to continue the funding the operation and maintenance of the federal government for another year. Easy approval could be expected. The government shutdown never would have happened. Also in December, the president would like to keep a campaign promise to build a wall with Mexico. Homeland Security does a study and concludes that 250 miles of a new type XYZ-3 border wall would improve its operation at the Mexican border. Currently, any form of justification study and determination of what type of wall or fence seems to be lacking. They estimate the cost for this wall would be $5 billion, or about $25 per registered voter. The Technopolis is used to pose the questions to voters. Would you support the building of a 250-mile border wall with Mexico at a total cost of $5 billion, or about $25 per registered voter? The results from the Technopolis would provide a mandate to Congress by state, by congressional district, as to how those they represent feel about the issue. If a line item bill is introduced to build the wall, the cradle to grave feature would provide a link to Homeland Security's study and request for the wall. The total cost for the wall and the per voter cost should be included. A link to the Technopolis system should be present to show voter sentiment on the topic. Congressional voting should follow Technopolis sentiment, or those choosing not to vote in accordance with the wishes of those they represent will have to explain their deviation. If the Technopolis sentiment is strongly against the proposal, it would be an obvious waste of time to even propose it. I hope you can visualize the improvements to the business in Washington by implementing the changes I have proposed. So now what? The politicians will have to make these changes. Politicians won't take any actions unless they know it's in their best interest to do so. Politicians are very mindful of public opinion, especially when it's large in magnitude and focused in scope. Share this video to stir public opinion. Get these topics on the table and provide a point of focus to the countless voters who are frustrated with the current state of affairs. So get busy. Share, share, share. Together, we can make a difference. If you don't act, you are agreeing that the current conditions are acceptable. Remember, silence is consent in Robert's rules. Don't be silent. Don't be passive. Do something for yourself, for our children and grandchildren, for a better world. Good luck and Godspeed.